Hey everyone, this is Aaron. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you how you can invoke a BI publisher report, read the data row by row, and insert that data into Oracle ATP database table. Hey, if you're new here, my name is Aaron. I make videos on Oracle ERP Cloud, EPM, integrations, and analytics. If these topics interest you, consider subscribing to the channel. Before we get into the actual build of the integration, I wanted to explain the process. One, so you need to have access to a ATP database, autonomous transaction processing database. You have a trial offer, which you can use from Oracle to sign up and have access to free ATP database. So maybe you can try that. I'll leave a link to that in the description of the video. So that ATP database, you should have access to it. You should have a database table, and you should also be able to download the database wallet, which will be used to connect to the database. And also you should have access to the database table. You should have a username and password, which we can use to connect to the database table. All right. The second is a SOAP connection or SOAP adapter, which we're going to use to connect to a Fusion instance to invoke the BI publisher report. You should have an ATP adapter. So within OIC, we will create an ATP adapter, which will then be used to connect to the ATP database and insert the data into the table. All right, so this is like the process flow for the integration itself. So we will invoke the BI publisher report using the SOAP adapter. That data is going to be in the Base64 format. We're going to decode that Base64 data. We're going to stage the file, read the Base64 data. We're going to loop through each record and then insert the data into the ATP database. This is what we're going to build in OIC. So I'm logged into Oracle Cloud instance. This is the console for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So once you are in your account, just navigate to Oracle Database, Autonomous Transaction Processing, and click on the database name. Once you're here, make sure to click on Database Connection. And go ahead and download the instance wallet. When you download the wallet, provide a username and provide the password and confirm the password. Click on download. It'll download a zip file. Make sure you save the password because we're going to use that when we configure the ATP adapter. The other thing that you need is the TNS name. Once you configure the database, you'll see the TNS name and the connection string. Just use one of these. You can use the medium one. So let's pick the medium one. And this is again needed when you set up or configure the ATP adapter in OIC. So I created a separate user called BIP in the database. So make sure to save the username and password for the database itself. And this is separate or different from the wallet password. I went ahead and created a table called AP invoices. So if I just went ahead and selected the data in the table, you'll see that there's no data. Currently, you have invoice ID, invoice number, invoice date, invoice description, and invoice amount as the column. So this is what we're going to insert into the table. So you should have access to an ATP database. The database should have a table. You could use the admin username password, but I've created a separate user called BIP and a table called AP_invoices within that schema. Download the wallet file. And when you download the wallet file, make sure to give it a password. Remember the password, remember the database username and the password as well. And the last thing is to pick one of the TNS names. Let's go into OIC. Go to integrations, connections. So I'm not going to explain how you can set up the SOAP adapter. I've showed this multiple times in my previous videos. I'll leave a link to that video in the card. So check that out. The other one is ATP database. So let's go ahead and create an ATP adapter. So I'm in connections, click on create and then search for ATP. You should see the Oracle ATP adapter. Click on select, give it a name, whatever name you want to call it. Okay. You can keep the rest of them as default. Click on create and service name. This is where your TNS name will go. You can keep the security type as default, and this is where you can upload your wallet details. So once you download the wallet from the database connection window, upload that here, provide the wallet password details here, this is the wallet password, not the database username password. So wallet password details, then provide the database username, and then provide the database user password. So in my case, the database service username would be BIP, and the password will be the corresponding password for BIP user. Okay, make sure you test it, and if there are no errors, you're gonna get a message that the test is successful. Make sure to save. I've also written a blog, so I'll leave a link to this as well in the description of the video, but I've explained how you can, with screenshots, how you can provide the details and connect to the ATP adapter using ATP adapter to the ATP database. So you can check that out as well. Report that we're going to use is AP invoice details. It's a pretty simple report. So you have invoice number, description, invoice date, and invoice amount. That's what we have. Okay. One of the things that we need from here is the name of the report and the path to the report. So here you can see the path is shared folders, custom BIP tutorials, but we only need /custom/BIP tutorials / and the name of the report .xdo. At the end of the report, we provide .xdo. All right. All right. Now let's go ahead and create the integration itself. So I'm in integrations, integration. Go ahead and create. I'm going to use a scheduled orchestration. Click on select. You can give it BIP to ATP DB and click on create. As always, I'm going to change the layout to horizontal and move this up to the left. Go to the schedule, edit the schedule. We need to give the report name as a parameter. So I'm going to set up a new parameter, give it BI report name. And this is where I'm going to give /custom/BIP tutorials /AP invoice details.xdl. Okay, so /custom/BIP tutorial, that's the path and the folder, and then at the end we give the name of the report and .xdo. Close. I'm going to go to track actions, tracking, and I'm going to select BIP report name and drag it to the tracking field. That'll be our primary tracking option. Click on save. Then it's going to ask me to select the component by default. Here I'm going to select SOAP. So this is the connection that we're going to use. Give it a name. So I'll invoke BIP report. Next. The operation that we're going to do is run report. Click next. Done. And what we want to do is click on the mapping, edit, and expand the body here on the right. Expand run report, expand report request parameters, expand report request, and you'll see report absolute path. So let's connect the BI report name, BI report name to the report absolute path. So now we're passing the BI report name to the report absolute path. The next thing, size of data chunk download. Right click, create a target node for that. Change it to $per view and provide -1 in double quotes. Click on save and validate. Close. All right, so we've done our initial mapping. So what this is going to do is this is going to invoke the BI publisher report. Now the report itself, when it invokes, the response is in Base64 encoded format. So we have to have a way to decode that. So for that, we're going to use actions assign and place it next to the invoke BIP report action. I'm going to call this decode Base64 data. Create. And so once you decode, it's going to go into a variable. So we have to create a new variable to hold that information. So add a new variable. Just going to remove -bs and change this to decoded base64 data. Or you can provide a description and go to the value section, click on expression builder. And in the component section, search for base64. So you're going to see a few base64 options. We are essentially looking for decode. And decode, you'll see two options, decode base64 and decode base64 to reference. Now, decode base64 just records the data. Decode base64 to reference. If I highlight that, you'll see the details here. This function accepts base64 encoded string as input. Base64 decodes it and returns the reference to a file with the base64 decoded value. Now, our next step is to stage the file to read the entire data file and loop through each record. Because our next operation is stage file, we need to use base64, decode base64 to reference so that we can reference the file. I'm going to select decode base64 to reference and select that, highlight encoded value. Then on the left side, let's expand run report return and select report byte. So this is the base64 encoded data. All right, so we have that set up. Click on validate, click on close. Click on validate and close. Awesome, great. So we have that. Now let's go ahead and add like another action called stage file. So we have the reference to the base64 data. Click on actions, click on stage file and place it next to the, and I'm gonna call this read data file next, and stage file operation, read the entire file, configure file reference, yes. Okay, now going to the expression builder again. Here, what are you going to configure here is the decoded base64 data. That's the reference to the file which has the decoded base64 data. So select that, click on next, save. Okay, click on exit expression builder. All this is fine, click next. And I have a sample CSV file, sample data file, click on next. I'm going to click on browse, go to apinvoices.csv, and I'll show you the file output. The file has four columns: invoice number, description, invoice date, and the invoice amount. Okay, so that's the file that I've created. If you want to see the file, here's the file. So nothing fancy, 2 lines of data with a column separated by comma. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to call this, okay, what do you want to call the record? Invoice record set, the total records. I'm going to call it invoices. All right. Make sure you select use first rows column headers, and you can change the data type. I'm going to change the data type for invoice date to date, and I think we're good. Click on next and done. So stage file is done. Now we have to loop through each data line or record in that file. So again, go to actions and select the for each option. So it's going to ask you, what do you want to call this? Read each data record. Oh, you know what? For each invoice. I'm going to call it for each invoice. So the repeating element here is if I were to expand read data file, read response, you'll see invoices and select invoice. So invoices is the full data set. Invoice is what repeats, because each record, for each record you have one record called invoice. So I'm going to select that as the repeating element. And what do you want to call the current record? Current invoice. So I'm just going to call this current invoice. Click on create. All right, so for each invoice loop has been created. Now let's connect to the ATP database. So I'm going to click on the plus icon. Just click on the search for component to add. Search for ATP and select the ATP adapter that you have set up. Insert data. Okay, and what operation do you want to perform? I'm going to perform a SQL statement. Select run SQL statement. Click on next. And I have a sample SQL query that I have, which is this. So insert into AP invoices and the column names, values, and in the values we have hash, and in the name of the column that you want to use. Okay, and in a while I'll show you how we can map that. So here you go. So provide that detail, click on validate, and you should see the status text. So you have to make sure you click on validate SQL query before you click on next. All right, I think that's done. Cool. Last step, click on map to insert data. So this mapping, let's edit the mapping, and you're going to be so happy to see this. So now we have the current invoice. We said that's what we want to call each of the current invoice record. So let's expand that. You'll see the invoice record, and you'll see the 4 columns here, or 4 data fields. Now on the right, you can see we have 4 columns. So just drag and drop here. There you go. Click on validate and click on close. All right, click on save, close. I'm gonna go ahead and activate this. Make sure to enable tracing, include payload, and activate. All right, it takes a few seconds, probably 20 to 30 seconds to activate the integration process. So keep checking or click on refresh after a few seconds. All right, now you can see it is active. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on run and click on submit now. Click on confirm and just copy and select this information here. Sometimes I've seen that even though we provide the default value, it doesn't get passed. I don't know why, but click on submit. And you should see the instance ID here. You can click on instance ID. It takes you to the status of that instance. Let it run for a few seconds and then we can refresh to see the status of this instance. I think this should be enough. All right, so we have a status of succeeded, which is very good. Let's go ahead and click the view details. And here you can see all of the details. So you have Invoke BIP report, decode Base64 data, read data file for each record, and then it says the process completed successfully. All right. So now if I were to go to the database and run this select star from AP invoices, you should see the data has been inserted into the table. All right, so this is as easy as it can be to invoke the BA publisher report and read the data, input that into the ATP database. I'm going to export this integration and upload it for you to reference, and please feel free to use it. I may upload this into Gumroad. So if you want to support me, you can download that integration for a small fee, but I'll have this available for free as well. So all right, I hope this was helpful. I know this has been something that you've been asking for. Let me know what other OIC videos you want me to make. Yeah, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and hope you have a good time with your family and friends and loved ones. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, share it with your colleagues and friends. You can follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn. So if you have questions, connect with me on LinkedIn and you can message me there. All right, I will talk to you in the next video. Take care.